So now Toby Reed with a word to something that is really a matter of life and death. And that is, Toby?
A blowout, Walter. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a blowout in one of the tires on your automobile. Did you ever stop to think that if you're driving at today's top speed of 35 miles an hour and a blowout swerves your car into an oncoming truck, which travels at the same speed, the resulting crash has a force of 70 miles an hour? Now that's enough to double you right over the steering wheel and push the engine through the dash. Yet there is actually no need for a blowout to throw your car out of control, not if the car is equipped with Goodyear Life Guards. For the Life Guard is an inner tire, a two-ply safety tire within a tube. It replaces the conventional inner tube, and if your outer tire and tube blow, the inner tire of the Life Guard remains inflated, holds the car steady so you can come to a sure, safe stop. That's the kind of blowout protection your family needs, and such sure protection it is that never once has a Life Guard been reported to fail. Never once. Think it over. Ask your Goodyear dealer if he has any of the few Life Guards now available. If so, equip your car with Life Guards, which are now ration-free. For remember, when your tire blows out, the Goodyear Life Guard never lets you down.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the ACC Kickoff here, day 2. We have Tom Lukenville, who used to play some college football at Georgia Tech.
That's
and,
right.
and you went off to
Eastern Kentucky. Yeah.
And he did some arena football, because we do some arena football back home in Baltimore with the brigade.
That's right, yeah,
stuff.
sure,
So
yeah.
now he's doing all the ESPN analyzing football and everything else. So just talked about day 1 yesterday with Larry Fedora talking about this we're under attack situation.
Yeah, there's parts of what he said that I just think he chose his words poorly. I think really if he could go back and do it again, he would have probably been a little bit more clear that, listen, the sport's under attack because all of the attention on concussions and CTE and all of those sorts of things only seem to be applied to football.
Right.
They've studied football players. We're not talking about this impact on soccer, rugby. Nobody has that data yet.
Exactly.
I don't think if you asked Larry Fedora in any way, shape, or form that he was trying to diminish the health and safety of the players. But listen, the reality is youth football inclusion is down. High school football participation is down. It's a sport that isn't a contact sport. It's a collision sport. And I've always maintained that if you make the choice to play this sport, you assume the risk.
Right.
And that risk is that you could be injured, whether it's a knee, whether it's an ankle, whether it's a shoulder, whether it's a concussion.
It's any sport. Like in baseball, you can pull your rotator cuff, even on one pitch, and you're done for, a year and a half.
Yeah, and I just think that he probably phrased things in a manner in which he probably could have done it a little bit better. But that's the world that we live in. The one thing, and I'm assuming I wasn't around when the question was asked, but this was in relationship to some rules changes in the kickoff rule and things of that nature. And, I'm not a proponent of that new kickoff rule in the sense that we are giving away free yardage. Right. I don't understand how any defensive coach would have voted for this in the sense that, okay, well, we've pinned you inside your 5, but now you get the ball 20 yards ahead of that.
Yeah.
I've actually felt, and I don't know how aware you are of this, but Greg Schiano, the defensive coordinator at Ohio State, he's got the perfect solution. Make the kickoff play a punt down.
Right, that's a good idea.
Because you always have the opportunity to fair catch. The punt returners rarely have the same type of impact and collisions.
Right.
Because they're not running up through a wedge.
Exactly, yeah.
And you still get the kick, you still have the ball in the air, and you still have a flipping field position.
Yeah.
I've always felt and maintained that was probably the best way to go. And you're not giving away free yardage to an opponent. So We'll see how it all plays out this year. I'm sure there'll be further tweaks.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to watch the first game to see if any of the officials screw up on the...
Yeah, I know. Well, what's going to be interesting, too, is how do the special teams coaches start coaching their kickers? Are we going to see more squib kicks? Are we going to see directional kicks?
More onside kicks?
Are we going to see more onside? What are we going to see in relationship to how the game now shifts?
Right.
And how that impacts the kick return game.
Yeah. So you played college football at Georgia Tech, and you went to Eastern Kentucky. Just talk about your time playing college football. I know back then you probably got smashed, and woke up the next morning going, where am I?
There's no question. When we played, whether it was in high school, and I was done in 1996, and in those days, and probably a pretty significant time after that, it was, what year is it? Who's the president of the United States, and how many fingers am I holding up? And if you answered all the questions right, you went back in the game.
We call that the Troy Aikman rule.
That's exactly right. And that was just kind of the nature of, hey, are there Tweety birds flying around your head, or are you able to answer some simple questions? And there just wasn't the diagnostic profiles that we have now. There wasn't the distinct research on not just what a concussion can do to you immediately, but the long-term after effect. One of the things that we see now is passing concussion protocol, which means 3 to 5 to 7 days. Mm-hmm. There's still things that have to be checked off the list. So we didn't have that. And listen,
because back in the old days, like I talked to Raymond Berry, some of the old Colts at home, and I could tell he got smashed across the center, because he's like looking at me like, "Who are you?"
No question.
Are you all right, dude?
Yeah, it's a different. It's just a different era. Even our era.
Back then, the helmets weren't made that way.
Well, that was the next point that I was going to make. We have made unbelievable technical advances with helmet safety, shoulder pads, impact dispersion, all of that stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day, our technology has not kept up with human evolution. Mm-hmm. Bigger, faster, stronger, better trained. So there's only so much you can do. And that's where I get back to the point of assuming the risk. Right. I think people have done a great job making the game safer. Our equipment has made the game safer. But it's only going to get safer to a certain point.
I know you played arena football,
so
what do you think about the new arena football with 4 teams, and they have this round robin playoff thing, like you have more points, and you could you play the game 2, and if you beat the guy by 12 points,
right?
Yeah, what do you? Because you're an old AFL guy.
Yeah, and I was an old Ironman AFL guy where the league was flourishing, it was prominent up until about 2003 when I was out of it from a playing and coaching perspective. And then everything just imploded. Salaries got too high. Having a CBA was the worst thing they could have ever done. Yeah. It couldn't sustain itself. It was built on a house of cards. And so I love the game. I love the sport. I think it's one of the best in-person viewing sports of all time. It's fast. It's basically it's fast break basketball on AstroTurf, and you got to be a really versatile, physically tough player to handle it. It's not easy. I wish that the league now, in all indoor leagues, had the same level, because the level of talent isn't what it used to be.
Right, and there's so many different leagues.
There's so many different leagues. It's been watered down.
This guy, that one, this one.
So
it's like, okay,
that's just part of the deal.
Yeah, we used to cover a lot of the arena stuff with the American Indoor Football League, the AIF. And that guy kind of like was one of those crooks people, takes the money and we're going to move you guys to here, and I'm like, really? It's not what it used to be. Well, we're here at day 2. What do you want to see in day 2 today with Coach Taggart's first time around here with all these people?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. You're going to have Willie Taggart. You're going to get a lot of questions about the quarterback position, a lot of questions about the offensive line. You're going to have Bobby Petrino, a lot of questions about the quarterback position. Right. Wake Forest, a lot of questions about the quarterback position. And I said on air yesterday on ESPN that I think one of the things that has made the ACC as a whole so strong over the last 5 to 7 years is the quarterback play has been really, really good. Yeah. And it's elevated the teams top to bottom, which has given them greater depth.
I agree.
Now you're going to have some changeover. You're going to have some new faces. You're going to have more unknowns, particularly on the Atlantic side of the division. So it'll be interesting to see how the thing plays out. I think that many people are kind of looking at Boston College maybe being a bit of a dark horse. Right. They're going to be really good on defense. They got A.J. Dillon. If they can stay healthy at quarterback, if they can stay healthy at quarterback, they might be a team to
maybe Boston College's offense will get a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was looking at the stats last night; they're like 103rd in the nation.
I know, but a lot of that was because their quarterback got hurt. And so
it's like a lot of 3 announcers.
Yes, if they can keep him healthy, they'll be pretty good.
Yeah, I think with Florida State, they could use 3 quarterbacks against Virginia Tech. On that opening game.
Possibly. I mean, listen, you've got 2 guys that have started 12 games each. Yeah. You got an older guy, you've got a younger guy,
and you got a lefty.
And exactly. And but he hasn't played yet. So let's see what happens with Francois and Blackman first. But then I think maybe more of a pressing question with FSU is, are they going to be any better in the offensive line? Because that's been just a real down position for them. the last 3 to 4 years.
So besides doing ESPN, you do XM radio, right?
Yeah, so I work for actually a variety of outlets.
You got a lot of
last
stuff.
year I worked for The Athletic and The All-American, breaking down film and doing film study things. I work for Sirius XM full-time, ESPN and ESPN.com. So I kind of spread in a variety of directions.
Do you ever get a vacation?
They're always a working vacation, let's just say that. But I do work out of my home, so I don't ever have to go into an office.
Oh, that's a good idea.
If I do TV, I go down into our studio in Valentine, or I go up to Bristol. But for the most part, I get a little freedom in the sense that I don't have to wake up in the morning, get in the shower, put a suit on, and go to an office.
Yeah, and driving in traffic.
That's
You're from this area, so you have to deal with this garbage on 74.
I know, it's crazy, right? Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate
I'm glad
it, man.
we talked.
You bet.
I hope to see you down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
Thank you.
All right, buddy.
Appreciate it. You got it.
Yo-ho, yo-ho, brush, let's all lather, boys, whichever you've the notion.
50 cents for shaving cream, $1 for the lotion.
Old Spice means quality, said the captain to the bosun. So look for the package with the ship that sails the ocean. Yo-ho, 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 yo-ho.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the ACC Kickoff. I'm here with Steve Beck, who is the CEO of the Military Bowl in Annapolis. You know, they play every year around after Christmas, a beautiful time of year in Annapolis with the Navy backdrop and all that stuff. So, Steve, just talk about being here today at the ACC Kickoff. How did everything all come about for you guys to be here?
Yeah, we came down a couple days ago, had a nice day of golf yesterday, and a nice dinner last night, so wasn't too taxing. And then just today, you know, seeing everything going on, it's been fun.
Yeah, just talk about the partnership with the ACC, because you guys have the fifth tier, you know, of the bowls.
Yeah, so we're the sixth selection after the college football playoffs, basically. So, you know, we usually have 3 or 4 teams to choose from, and we've been very fortunate over the last 4 years. We sold out 3 out of the last 4 years. You know, we had Virginia Tech, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Navy. Then we had still another good year, Wake Forest, Temple, and then last year we had UVA and Navy again.
Yeah, and Navy has the tie-in to it, so if they make it to the bowl game, they automatically stay home.
No,
or how's that work?
Yeah, so we have a selection out of the American Conference.
Okay.
Pretty much our choice, you know, after college football playoffs. And then, you know, we took Navy again. You know, last year was second time in 2 years, but you know, we don't want them every year, and they don't want to be there every year. You know, so we like to mix it up a little bit.
Steve, you know, the sixth selection after the college football playoff is really saying something. You know, the Military Bowl is becoming more prominent. Talk about how things have developed and how you've gotten to this point.
Well, yeah, especially since the beginning. I mean, we started in 2008. We had Navy and Wake Forest. Then we had a couple years where our contracts didn't fulfill, and we questioned whether there were going to be enough bowl games available, or bowl eligible teams available to cover everybody. And it seemed to work out every year. Even in our down year, we had a great year. We had number 22 in the nation, San Jose State, against Bowling Green. You know, on the face, that's not a great matchup, but for us, it really panned out from an economic perspective.
And you had Maryland there one time playing against, you know, one of the games. You know,
yeah, Maryland played ECU at RFK, and that was a great year. That was Fridge's last game. And then they played Marshall in 2010, 11? No, 13.
See, let me ask you, you know, we have directors of bowls come on here, and they always talk about the fan experience. What can fans expect if they come to the Military Bowl?
Well, we have the best of both worlds. So the teams stay in D.C., Washington, D.C., and they get that flavor for the whole week. You know, they go to the African American Museum or the U.S. Capitol, and receptions and team luncheon, all kind of events going down there, Ben's Chili Bowl. And then in Annapolis, we have the night before the game, we have a wine tasting, and then we have a bar crawl. Wake up in the morning, we have a big parade, about 5,000 to 10,000 people. We have the Budweiser Clydesdales are back again this year, so we're very lucky on that. And then that heads right up to our stadium, and we have a huge tailgate pregame. This year we're probably going to do a postgame party because we're actually on New Year's Eve this year at 12 noon. So It's going to be hard to tailgate in the morning, but we're going to extend that in the afternoon, and then that'll tie into some events that Annapolis has going on. We also have a big 450-person Medal of Honor reception, USO reception pregame. It's very nice. Last year we had 13 Medal of Honor recipients in attendance. It's really cool.
How cold was that game last year? Because it was like 5 degrees.
Yeah, it was 20 degrees. But the 3 years before that were unbelievable. I mean, in the 60s and 70s. So, every once in a while we're going to get a cold game. But, we had a great matchup. Jam-packed house. Navy returns the opening kick, or Virginia returns the opening kick. And then that was all they did the whole game. The rest of the time, Navy just took it to them 49-7. So. But it's good to get Virginia back in a bowl game. I think things are looking up for them too. So.
Well, let's talk about what's going on in Annapolis with that horrible thing. Because we were in Baltimore, and what happened. Is there something that you guys are going to do for?
We're looking into. We're definitely going to do something with the people at the Gazette. And, Josh Barr, our communications guy, was very close to John McNamara. And it's just a tragedy. Just a senseless tragedy. It makes no sense to me. I can't even fathom it. So.
Well, I'm glad, Steve, on this kind of platform that you have, that you're able to do those kinds of things. It's not just all about football all the time.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, that's what we really take a lot of pride in. I mean, our primary beneficiary is the USO. We give them over $100,000 every year. But we just purchased, I don't know if you've heard about this, but 2 years ago we purchased a 300-acre farm outside of Cambridge, Maryland to make into a retreat center for wounded, ill, and injured and their families.
Oh, that's cool.
So this is the coolest place ever. It's right on the water, 2.4 miles of waterfront. We sleep about 20 down there. We've had retreats with over 70 people. It's really a great thing. Fishing, crabbing, water sports, kayaks, hunting also in the season. It's really special.
I think we're sold to put in some credentials for the military bowl. Steve, we also talk about how bowl games bring such a positive, reflection on cities, and not to mention the economic impact. Can you touch base on that?
Yeah, we've had a substantial, that's part of our mission. Our mission is twofold, to have a substantial economic effect in the area that we hold the game, and then to support those men and women in uniform, of course, naturally. So we feel that we're doing a great job on that. I mean, I think last year our economic impact was over $18 million locally, which is great. All the hotels are jam-packed in Annapolis. I mean, it's tough to get a room there during our game time.
Well, Steve, thank you so much. I know you're, hopefully you have a safe trip back home to Maryland. Hopefully it's not that hot up there. And I heard it was 100 degrees yesterday with the humidity.
Well, it wasn't exactly chilly down here either.
Well, maybe we'll see you at the military.
Look forward to it.
Yeah,
thanks for your
so
time.
much for the time.
Great talking.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
See you guys.
My love, I hope you
folks. Welcome to the ACC Kickoff here, and we have Wes Durham, who does the national feed for Raycom Sports, and used to do Georgia Tech football and does Atlanta Falcon football during the preseason and all that stuff. So he's here in the ACC Kickoff. So Wes, just talk about today the Coastal Division. Who has the firepower to beat Miami, to get into the ACC championship game?
Well, that's a good question, Chris, because really the Coastal has been the most chaotic of the divisions. I mean, since the ACC went to divisions, it's kind of been streamlined in the Atlantic. There's a dominant team, and then there's some also-rans, and then the Coastal seemingly was somebody different every year. I mean, we've had Duke, Carolina, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, obviously Miami last year. Look, at this point, I think Miami is certainly a half stride ahead of other contenders. There's questions at Virginia Tech. There's questions at Georgia Tech. Pittsburgh has been put third by one preseason publication. Look, I think there are a myriad of teams that could contend here. I think the most important thing that the Coastal faces, and this includes Miami, is they've got to get off to good starts.
Right.
I mean, their games, Pitt plays Penn State in week 2. Georgia Tech plays at Pitt and then has Clemson in 3 and 4. You know about Miami, LSU.
Right.
Virginia Tech plays, Florida State on Labor Day night. So it's going to be interesting to watch the momentum of the league in that particular division, at least early.
Let's just talk about Miami against LSU. They haven't played each other since the Peach Bowl a couple of years ago, a long time ago.
Yeah.
But what did Miami have to do against that LSU defense? And the LSU has some issues at quarterbacking too.
Well, and really it becomes about Miami's defense and LSU's offense. The biggest question I think the Tigers face is who's going to be the quarterback, and how does Miami respond offensively. I think all the conversation, to be honest with you, about Malik Rozier in the offseason has been just fodder, because Rozier had a really nice year, and I think he ended up taking he took a lot of blame for things that really were beyond his control. I mean, Mark Walton got hurt.
Right.
I thought Travis Homer did a nice job. Amon Richards was never really healthy last year.
And he's here today, so hopefully he's not in the boot or anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, Amon Richards was not healthy. Mark Walton got hurt. All of a sudden, one thing led to another, and then Miami starts 10-0, and then the way they finish, everybody kind of shakes their head. I look at the scenario with Miami and LSU as being more than Miami LSU. It's really about, to be honest, ACC, SEC.
Right.
And that's an important ball game for the league early in the year, in my opinion. And I think Miami will win the game at least today, but, this is mid-July.
Exactly. Well, a lot of talk probably going to be today and tomorrow about what Jimbo Fisher said in the ACC about, I didn't want to leave Florida State, but you and I are not we're smart people. It's all about the cash.
Well, it was, and at time, I mean, look, I understand kind of where he's coming from. $75 million over 10 years is a lot of money.
I wish I had that.
That's life-changing money, yeah. For me, I look at what he said last year and this year as being, look, you got to protect yourself. Jimbo's a good football coach.
Yes.
But, and I can't remember specifically who said this, so forgive me, but he's been brought to College Station to do one thing.
Win the championship.
And beat Alabama.
Right.
Well, there are a lot of people who have jobs around the country that are in charge of doing one thing. But Texas A&M's a different beast. They have resources, they have personnel, they have money, but they haven't won a national championship since 1939.
Right.
So, there's a lot of work to be done there, and some of it's real, and really, quite frankly, some of it is perception. And recruiting is going to be really difficult. There's one thing about being in Texas. There's a second thing about being in Texas and working in another league, not in the Big 12. So it'll be interesting to see how the first couple of years go for sure.
What do you like to hear from Commissioner Swalpern this morning? What is your, checklist for you?
Well, for me, I think that the public probably wants to hear more updates, if he can, on the carrier subscriptions with the ACC network. It's 13 months away. I think the second thing that he wants to probably talk about is the stability of the league. If he wants to break some perceptions about where the where the revenues are, this would be a good time to do it. I don't know that that'll happen. I think one of the other things he's working on probably is the tremendous balance and depth the league now has. This is a much deeper league in football than people know. I think that's one thing that's really become evident here in the last 3 or 4 years is how really good this league has gotten from a football perspective.
Well, talk about what you guys do on XM Radio, because